Welcome to another episode of Relatively Famous, the podcast where I, Chip White, interview relatives of famous people. My famous relative is Vanna White of Wheel of Fortune. Maybe you've heard of her. Probably learned the alphabet from her. Today, I'm excited, man. This is a new thing for us. We actually have two guests on at once. The guest today is Wilson Fairchild, which is a duo of Langdon and Wil Reid, sons of Don and Harold Reid of the Statler Brothers. They have a band called Wilson Fairchild, which sounds like one person, but it's a duo. And speaking of duos and family and relatives, if you're looking for the perfect family vacation, I suggest you go to visitmyrtlebeach.com and plan your vacation down in the Myrtle Beach area. They specialize in autistic and sensory sensitive vacations for families that are traveling with autistic and sensory sensitive children. You can go to visitmyrtlebeach.com. You can also watch Traveling the Spectrum on Peacock. It deals with places in Myrtle Beach that specialize in support autistic children. And that's at visitmyrtlebeach.com, and that is Traveling the Spectrum on Peacock. And let's welcome Wilson Fairchild.
Relatively Famous Podcast with Chip White.
Welcome to Relatively Famous. Wil and Langdon Reid are better known as Wilson Fairchild.
Mm-hmm. Here we are.
Here we are. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. Obvious question first. Neither one of you are a single person, Wilson Fairchild. Where does it come from?
Good question. We get asked a lot.
So we
know that answer.
I know that we look really young, but we've been in the music business for about 100 years, and Wilson Fairchild is our middle names. So my middle name is Wilson.
My middle name is Fairchild.
And we thought it sounded duo-ish, so we stuck with it. Yeah. So we're still trying to make it a household name. Yeah.
So, but is it Wil Wilson?
No, my name is Harold Wilson.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Harold Fairchild sounded better Wilson Fairchild sounded better.
Exactly.
But it is, we have showed up at venues before and people not knowing that we were a duo, and they'll say, "Where's Wilson Fairchild? Is he around here?"
We're looking for that guy.
Yeah.
So maybe it wasn't a good idea. I don't know.
Yeah, like, where's Pink?
Right. Uh-huh.
Pink Floyd.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. I saw you guys recently in Fredericksburg, and I have to say, man, my wife and I love the show. I went into it, and Wil, no offense, but I've been talking to Langdon, and I had this vision like these guys are, they're fathers of the Statler Brothers, and it's going to be very stoic and musically, and it was almost like a Dean and Martin show.
That is the nicest thing you could have said to us. We appreciate it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I'm very businesslike on the phone. I furrow my brow, and it's all business, Chip. I was setting you up.
Yeah.
And then you got to the show and the zaniness in country music.
Obviously, you should have talked to me, but that's just the way it worked out. Yeah.
Yeah, the humor was amazing, man. And not to overplay the humor, because the talent is phenomenal. Obviously, your dads are Harold and Don Reid of the Statler Brothers. So you grew up musically. What really cemented the fact, like, hey, I think this is the direction we're going to go?
So it was all genuine. Our dads were not just famous. They were super famous. There was no accident they ended up in the Country Music Hall of Fame and the Gospel Music Hall of Fame. And, Langdon and I were kind of the last two in our family to be born, and it was in the heyday of them rising to the top in the 70s, and being headliners in country music. So we grew up with that, and we were enamored and blown away with our dad's songwriting, and we're best friends with our dads. And watching them on the stage all those years. So from an early age in our teenage years, there's just nothing else we wanted to do. You know, when we started playing guitars and started writing songs, and you know, we learned singing harmony from them, listening to their records. It's always what we wanted to be involved in.
And you know, we to expand a little bit more on that, we say in the show that this is a family business, and he's right. We grew up seeing that. We stood on the side of the stage, watched those guys, and as kids, we would ride the bus with them and go to the fairs and those festivals that they played, and we saw what they did. And then as we got into our later years in high school, we were lucky enough to have some songs cut by the Statler Brothers. So then we're like, wow, not only is this singing thing cool, so we get to tell stories through music, and they thought it was good enough. And it wasn't, by the way, you know, to know those guys, they took that craft very serious. So it wasn't like whatever we turned in, they're like, oh, that's great, you know. No, they made us go back and sharpen the pencil and work on it, and you know, make the meter and the meaning and all this, and so we learned that as well from them too. And then we're like, man, this is another aspect of the music business was the songwriting. And then you know, since then we're lucky enough to say we've had over 30 to 40 songs recorded, and even by other artists. So that helped the process also.
Yes.
Okay, that leads me to a great question. Other artists who recorded your songs, as the writers, what's your favorite that's been recorded, and by who?
Well, I think that easy one is the Statler Brothers. That was even though their family and their dads and best friends, we still were big fans of what they did, and the way they did it. So, and we saw, again, I'm going to reiterate how serious they took that songwriting, and it just kind of fell out of them because we got to see the behind the scenes, and you saw your dad write songs. I saw my dad write songs, and it was almost unfair how natural and easy it came to them, even though they worked at it. But so to see those guys at the top of their game, for them to say, you know what you guys just put together is good enough by our standards. I mean, we're like, okay, I'm 17 years old. I got a song cut by the Statlers. I'm ready to retire.
So, I mean, you talking about ruining us for the rest of our lives of wanting to be hillbilly entertainers. So back to which song? I think I can tell you exactly which song. Langdon and I had both independently written songs that got their approval when we were teenagers. But not until I was probably 20, you were probably 18, somewhere in there. Langdon and I head off to Ohio to get fair dates to a fair buyer convention. You know, just the two of us. You know, we're trying to hook up with a promoter, and we're trying to book fairs for the summer. And we start writing a song in my Jeep on the way to Ohio, and it was their story. The song is called "What We Love to Do," and but by the time we went to Ohio and back, we had written this song. Okay, I think we even wrote the lyrics down before we had a melody to it. So when we got back home, we looked at it, and it was pretty good, and it was good enough we wanted to sing it for our dads.
It made sense and rhymed.
That's right. So that was the first song we had ever written together. When we got back home, we sat down in Dad's living room and sang it for our dads. And you knew you had something if they said, I want to hear it again. And not only did they like the song, they recorded that song on their next album with the approval of the other brothers, with Jimmy and Phil. The only songs they recorded is when all four of them agreed on a song. You know, so it wasn't our dad saying, you know, we're going to record our boys' song. They didn't do that, but it got everybody's approval. And you know, it was in the day that they were transitioning into the Statler Brothers show, and so it wasn't a radio thing with them anymore. But they were putting out, you know, albums every year. So they recorded our song. They actually shot a video. There's a video out there of the song, of them being on the road on their Eagle, and the song was called "What We Love to Do," and Langdon and I wrote it 50-50 without anybody's help. That was our inspiration. I mean, we had arrived, man, you know. And so the other thing that beat us up over the years, after we got the approval of our Hall of Fame dads, we would go to Nashville and talk to song publishers and talk to record labels. and they hated our stuff. They were like, well, this is the dumbest song we've ever heard. Who wrote this song? It's like, we did. And then they would go into the second verse and say, well, why'd you write this verse like that? It's like, wait a minute.
And I was like, that was all Will. That was his fault. It's horrible, isn't it?
But we lived those days. It's like we'd leave to go eat lunch. It's like, well, our dads are the Statler Brothers, and they said it was good. And then we come to Nashville, and all these people tell us how horrible it is. And that's our story right there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So,
And you know what? If I can add to the end of that, that was one of the first songs we wrote together, and one of the last songs we wrote for the Statlers was a tribute song to them, and it was when they were being inducted, as he said, into the Gospel Music Hall of Fame and also the Country Music Hall of Fame. We were asked to be a part of both of those ceremonies, and so we knew that we were going to sing a Statler Brothers song for that. And we got to thinking, we're like, well, what should we do? And we started listing songs of this one. Well, no, what about this one? No, this one, this one. And we said, you know what? Let's take this opportunity to write our own Statler Brothers song, and it's a tribute to them. So we did. It was the same kind of thing. We were in his vehicle, and we were actually going to Nashville from Virginia. And we said, all right, this is what we're going to do. We're gonna try to encapsulate their 40-year career inside of 4 minutes. You know, everything that those guys have ever done and contributed to the category of country music. And that was one of the more fun songs we've written, the hardest, most challenging, most nerve-wracking, all of that. And it is a tribute song. We get asked to do that a lot. We didn't do it in that show the other day that you saw. We did some other of their songs, but in this song in particular, we included, I think, about 14 to 15 of their song titles. We referenced, we tipped our hat to them, all kinds of stuff. So, and again, the end of that story is when we finally came back home and we said, all right, it's got the melody, it's got the story, we want to sing it to them. And we called both of our dads. We sat down on his dad's patio. It was just the four of us and a guitar. And Will and I sang it. And both of them closed their eyes, took a deep breath, and they said, let me hear it again. And we said, all right, this is good.
That's
so
great.
We sang it again, and we all four cried because it was such a special moment. And that was the song that we sang at their medallion ceremonies when they were inducted into those Hall of Fames.
Mm-hmm.
you know, I think I am not musically challenged, and my wife will tell you that. She says there's one singer in the family, and it is not me. But I admire music. I think that it's got to be fulfilling as a musician to be able to write that for a tribute to your parent. I mean, there are so many things I wish I could have said to my father and my mother before they passed. But you know, how do you, if you're not writing a song, how do you say that? So what advice would you have for someone who's not musically? It's like if you wanted to say something to your parent, does that question make sense?
Yeah, well, that was a cool thing for us. I think it was our way of saying thank you. And not only to our dads, but to the Statlers as artists. And we kind of took that approach. So you're right. That's not easy. You know, there's words out there that aren't easy. I'm sorry is hard to say. Thank you is hard for some people to say. And this was our way of saying thank you. And we put it through song.
But, you know, the other thing with me and Langdon, back to what you're saying, it's always been so personal with he and I. That's part of our story. It's like we didn't want to be a punk rock band, which would have been a great marketing tool, to say that they're nothing like the Statler Brothers, you know? We were so involved, so entrenched, and loved everything they ever did that, you know, we're country music historians as well as Statler Brother historians. You know, we could talk to them about songs that were on albums of theirs in the 70s that they couldn't remember which songs were on which albums. And so, yeah, when he said a minute ago, we literally rode in the car for 8 hours talking about that song because we didn't want to mess it up. It was really personal that we were going to do this for our dads. It had to be good. It couldn't not be good, you know?
And we knew so much about the subject we're writing,
Yeah.
but yet it was tricky to get started.
And I'll have to say this too, hats off to us. We know how to write a song, and you know, we've written some pretty good ones. We might not be the most famous songwriters that ever lived, but we had good teachers.
Again, I love that humor, man. In the show, you kept saying, we only have an hour for them to find out how great we are.
It's not a lot of time, man.
That's right. We had to tell people.
But you know what? The truth is, you guys are amazing, man. The show, the humor, the harmonizing. I mean, I really was blown away.
Well, thank you.
So I'm going to ask individually the same question.
Okay.
Will.
Yes.
What color was your childhood?
Oh, it was beautiful. Blue, but not sad blue, happy blue. Sky blue. Yes. And that's the truth. Absolutely. Is that cool, or you want more on that?
I don't think there's a wrong answer. Unless
No.
you said chartreuse butterscotch.
I mean, if I'd have said black, that would have been tough, to
Yeah.
deal with.
Gray.
No, I like that. Blue's my favorite color, but it's a sky blue, Yeah, that's my childhood, absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Langdon?
Green.
Green.
I would say green. We got a lot of memories of being outside, being on a ball field in particular, from my brother and me and dad coaching us and all that kind of stuff. And so I don't know. I see probably green for childhood, being in the backyard and all that kind of stuff.
Okay, Virginia. So you're from Virginia. So you just picked sky and mountains.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me about your childhood in Virginia. I know the area. I've been through there. It's beautiful.
Yes, it is.
Thank you.
We don't take credit for it, but we agree with you.
We do brag about it. So that was another huge part of the Statler Brothers story, is as all of our dads and their brothers and the quartet coming from in and around Stanton, Virginia, right in the middle of the Shenandoah Valley. And they wouldn't sacrifice anything in their career for their hometown. They wanted to stay here. And whether it was Nashville, across the country, LA, around the world, they always came back to Stanton, Virginia. So we had that instilled in us. I mean, we love Virginia. We love the Valley, and we get those same nice compliments across the country, everywhere we go. And I love seeing every part of the country. Mm-hmm. But everybody says, "Man, we went through Shenandoah Valley one time. That's beautiful country." And it's like, yeah, we like the Valley and we like the mountains. That's what we do. And yeah,
we haven't found a good reason to run away yet.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think hometowns for everybody. Like I don't live in mine. I've traveled, lived many different places, but there's always something about going home. I love going home, and when I leave, I'm looking forward to leaving. But I also get that kind of melancholy feel. I'm leaving. I know I'll be back, but I'm leaving, and you guys get to go back.
Well, and home is so many things. And, it's not just the setting and the environment or the house you grew up in. It's your memories, and so as long as we've got our memories, I think you can always go home.
I've said that so many times with us touring and needing to go wherever the show is, wherever the need is for what we do. But I've said so many times that the only reason I leave is so I can come back home. And it made me laugh too. This last trip to Texas, one of our guys in the band said, which I thought was great. And he's like, yeah, he said, I'm always, first one on the bus and ready to go when it's time to do it. He said, but when it's over, he said, I want to be the first one off the bus too. But that's so true.
It is.
That's what we do here. Yeah.
Okay. Another. I'm going to ask the question. I'm going to get both opinions on it. I'll start with Langdon this time. Langdon.
All right.
What show really is your most memorable show?
Most memorable show
that you guys have done together.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I will say one that sticks out to me is when we were in high school. So it was an early show, and I'm not even going to say it was good. I'm not even going to say we were good at the time, but it was memorable. And in our hometown of Stanton, Virginia, the Statler Brothers, they hosted and they started and hosted an event over the July 4th celebration, and it was a free concert. And we can go into a long episode as far as it was called Happy Birthday USA. And it brought in so many people. Our town is 25,000 people. And over a course of those few days, we had 100,000 people easily and come to our town. And so we grew up always knowing the 4th of July. It was bigger than Christmas. We loved it.
It was big.
It was so much fun.
Mm-hmm.
And and we met so many people and so many people coming in and seeing all the Statlers would always have a special musical guest that year. So we got to meet a lot of people. I'm saying all that because I think it was going to be about 92, something like that. And we were starting to play music, and you had to apply and submit to the committee of that event in order to be accepted to play on that stage. And just because we knew the guys didn't mean that we got a free pass either. But it was so cool to stand on that stage and to again, we grew up watching this event from over there, from the other side, and now we're on the stage as teenagers and playing our own guitars, singing our own songs. So that one sticks out in my mind because there's so many things, so many emotions going on. Nervous, excited, how cool that was, everything that was happening, and to stand on the stage on July 4th in your hometown and play to, 50,000 people out there at the time or whatever it was. And that was a memorable show.
Will, what's your memory of it?
Yeah.
So I can't argue with that, of course, but I'm going to fast forward to last 4th of July because about 7 or 8 years ago, Langdon and I started our own nonprofit, which is happybirthday.america.org. And we brought back that event to our Stanton, Virginia home like our dads used to do. And every year it keeps growing. So I think last year on the 3rd and the 4th, we probably had 28,000 people that came through the event. And we're putting on a free show, big stage, big production. And we've made that a huge annual event for Wilson Fairchild. And, we had a few thousand people at the show in their lawn chairs. And that gets better every year. And the same event, but it's so personal. It means so much to us. And we work so hard to do that, to give back to the community and let, charities make money and people come for a free show. And the truth is, back in the day, our dads, were bringing in big time country music stars to do a show with them for a free show. But you know what? A free show in 1975 is different than a free show in 2025. It's really a really big deal that we're still putting on a free show for people. And so it just means so much.
Yeah.
Same stage, different year.
Excellent. So we recently had Matt Axton on, Hoyt's son. I don't know if you guys know Matt. And
I see some of his social media.
Yep.
Yeah. So in the course of the conversation, and he's like you guys. He's a legacy kid. He travels, with his band, and it's not easy to make a living. And he mentioned visiting the merchandise table is what really helps support you.
Man,
guys,
boy, look at that.
What a hat. That is beautiful.
Isn't this a great hat?
Yeah.
What's it like traveling? Because, the Rockbox in Fredericksburg was not a huge venue. And then you got 28,000 people. How I won't say how do you make a living at it, but what is it, what are the struggles? What is the how important is merchandise to Wilson Fairchild?
Very, by the way. This business is the same as it was for Hank Williams in 1945. For years, even when you had a record deal or you had a record out, back in the day, the record and the radio at least made more sense. They weren't making a lot
literally more sense.
More sense.
Yeah.
They weren't making a lot of money from the records. The record label was.
Yeah.
But where artists have always made their money is from concert pay and from merchandise, and we're really in a great situation right now is the business is the same that way. You have to run it like a business. It costs us a lot of money to go to Texas and do shows. Everything from lodging to the bus to the fuel to eating, everything. So yes, selling merchandise is a way that we make money like anybody else would. We just set up our store, when we stop. But it works, and it has to work. And it's always tough and it's always different. But it's just a business.
It is. I'll say this too. And you saw at that show in particular, and we said it in the show, we say it every show. We always go out to our merch table after the show, and we'll stay as long as we need to, and as long as the people will have us. We talk to them, we sign their stuff. They tell us stories about the first time they saw our dads. They tell us, we do. We get time to chat with them. And that means a lot to us. There's social media is a great thing, and you can have these digital friends all day long, and those numbers matter to certain marketing firms. That's great. But if we can go to the Rockbox Theater in Fredericksburg, Texas, and stand there and talk to 100 people after the show, spend some time with them, that means a lot I know it means a lot to them, and I can definitely tell you it means a lot to us. And that kind of connection and relationship has probably it's gotten lost through the digital world and through our technology. So we are glad to be able to continue to do that.
And let me tell you this also. We're trying to get better at sharing these stories because it's pretty meaningful. Langdon, I feel like our whole career has been a struggle to try to connect the dots. Like we get so much support from Statler fans that are thrilled. I mean, to this day, that they didn't know who we are. Now they know who we are, but they feel like they're getting some of the old Statler Brothers sound through us. And but even on that trip to Texas, in the Fredericksburg thing, I think we had Statler fans that came from the Houston area that had only been to Statler Brother concerts, and now they'd been to see Wilson Fairchild, but they saw us through social media and they got there. By the time we got to Gale, Texas, a huge number of new fans that never knew who we were. We had one couple that drove from Nebraska to come see us in Gale, Texas, because they'd seen us on social media and they wanted to see us so bad. That means the world to us. But back to talking about Matt Axton, same thing. It's we don't have the old model of radio stations and everybody's playing those records to get people out in those small communities. But the social media thing really works. It's really helping us, and we've seen a huge increase in the last few months. Since the record with Gaither's been out for a year, you just got to stay at it.
We had some people drive from Japan.
Oh wow! What's the hardest part?
There's a paddle car.
What's the hardest part of standing out as we're not a Statler Brothers tribute band? We are great songwriters and talent. What's the hardest part of trying to establish Wilson Fairchild fans?
Well, ding, 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 ding. You win.
Yeah.
That is exactly what we pushed away and fought for a long time. And then over the last 10 years, probably, we learned to embrace. It's like, we can't get away from the Statler brother thing, and we didn't want to. So how do we embrace it and establish what we're doing? And that's exactly where we're at, and I think we always will be.
Yeah, and you're the name of your podcast, Relatively Famous. That's we're all, there's a reason you're talking to us here. And being second generation, we always, when coming out of the chute, we were like, you know what, we're our own people. We write our own songs. We got our own sound. That was good. That was part of the process. But we also, maybe at the time, we kind of stiff-armed the Statler brother name or legacy because we didn't want to be accused of riding coattails. And we also knew that there was an expectation. If somebody hears Statler Brothers, they immediately think, oh, okay, nostalgic music, quartet, and
matching suits.
Right.
Yeah.
And when the two guys show up who aren't necessarily doing that music, then people are like, oh, well, I thought y'all were going to do, flowers on the wall.
Y'all ain't the Statler Brothers. There's only two of you.
Yeah. What do y'all? And you're like, no, we never claimed to be. That's what you expected. That was unfair. We didn't say that. So that was part of the journey to figure that out of how we establish us, but at the same time, embrace our legacy, our heritage, and what we grew up with. Because again, we say it in the show too, our latest album is called Statler Made. We're Statler Made. And that really summed up who we are musically. And I think personally too.
And we finally got there to say, we'll use the name enough so people can make the connection, but we're not a tribute band. And the other thing is too, just like in Fredericksburg, Texas, seeing how many tribute acts there's out there, people singing, George Strait music, people singing the Eagles, people doing Elvis over and over and over again. Yes, that's been tough to say, listen, we are not a Statler tribute band, but we are going to sing some of their music. And like Langdon said, it's a family business, that's where we're at.
And I think one thing too, and I think you'll notice in our set when we did a George Jones song, we did a Crystal Gale song, we did a Conway Twitty song, we did an Elvis Presley song, but we didn't do it like their cut necessarily,
or try to do it like them.
Yeah, we've never done that. I think a lot of people, even if they're going to do a cover song in their show, they'll do it in the exact same key and do the exact same arrangement, which is fine. We've never approached a cover song like that if we're doing somebody else's. We're like, we love this. If you want to hear, George Jones' version of this song, we'll go listen to his. But we're going to do that same song, but we're going to do it our way and hopefully put our stamp on it.
Right, do it as well as we can, but it always comes out sounding like we did it. Yeah.
And people will be like, well, you did that song, but you didn't do it like the original. Or like, I know.
Exactly.
So that's been helpful to establish ourselves.
Sorry to cut you off, but we're running out of time.
Oh, well,
that's all right.
I know. I'd love to keep going, but since we've switched our platforms, we get squeezed on our time.
We'll do part 2. That's fine.
Yeah, absolutely. Last question. What question did I not ask that you guys really wanted me to ask you?
Well, I'm so glad that the thing about the arrest in El Paso didn't come up. Like, I'm pleased about that.
I'm glad that
he didn't ask that one. Right. I usually get that. It's on Google. Right.
I'm just glad you put clothes on after the shower.
Right. Exactly.
What is your routing number to your bank account number?
Yeah.
That would have been helpful. Hey, I do want everybody to know that Chip bought that cap.
Yeah. I did.
We would have gladly given him one because we knew about the podcast, but he bought it before we ever know that, and we really appreciate it. Thank you. Mm-hmm.
Hey, I'm doing my part, man, and I'm going to wear it.
That money you spent paid for this cup of coffee.
Hey, I might even wear it in the Myrtle Beach Classic Golf Tournament. Who knows?
Oh, yes.
All right.
Well, hey guys,
you've asked a lot of good questions, so I can't think.
Oh yeah, thank you for having us.
Yeah,
it's been a lot of fun, and again, tell people where they can find your merch and your music.
Absolutely. So WilsonFairchild.com. You can find everything there, but we're on all socials. Wilson Fairchild on Facebook, on Instagram, on TikTok, and all the streaming services. Whether it's iTunes or Amazon or Spotify. You put in Wilson Fairchild, and our catalog is out there. And that's the great thing is to be able to do that. And the great thing is we will be making our rounds in Texas again. Everybody was pleased, and more venues that we're going to get to. And thanks again for reaching out. When Langdon told me about your podcast originally, I was offended, and I was like, well, that I don't want to be relatively famous. That's not very nice. But when he explained it to me, I was like, well, this is pretty cool. Thank you for having us.
Hey, I appreciate it. I hope you guys will help share it. And if you know some other relatives, send them our way at podcastrelativelyfamous@gmail.com. This has been awesome. I really, truly enjoyed the show. I love you guys' humor and just your story. And who knows, maybe we will do a part 2, right?
Hey,
sounds good.
Chip, we're glad to call you a friend now. We really appreciate it.
Me too. And if I'm somewhere where you guys are close, I'm going to holler. And if I get to Virginia, I'm going to holler too, man.
Oh, do that. When we come back to Texas, we're going to stay at your house. All right.
Come up to the, I call it the ranch, but come up to the ranchette. It's only 15 acres, but come up and we'll hang out, shoot some guns, have some barbecue.
We're fine. Done.
Done. Cool. Well, gentlemen, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And we will be seeing you on the flip side, as they used to say.
All right, man. See you soon, Chip. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Well, I'm an even bigger fan of Wilson Fairchild now. I hope you'll go see these guys when they're performing in your area. Go to their website. It's Wilson Fairchild. And thanks, guys. Now, I want to, again, thank our sponsors. I want to thank you, the viewer and the listener. Without you, we wouldn't have a podcast. I'm grateful that you take the time to listen, to watch, to share, to like, to subscribe. If you're looking for the perfect family vacation or golf vacation or fishing vacation, go to visitmyrtlebeach.com and go check out my hometown area of Myrtle Beach, and that's at visitmyrtlebeach.com. You can also check out Traveling the Spectrum on Peacock, where Visit Myrtle Beach sponsors this show that talks about and shows about traveling with autistic and sensory sensitive kids and adults, and that's Traveling the Spectrum on Peacock and visitmyrtlebeach.com. I want to thank Nelco Media. I want to thank Nelco Comics for the great studio that we get to record in. If you're looking for that special comic book or having a hard time finding one, You can probably find it at Nelco Comics in San Antonio. You can go on their website, see what they got. And again, I am grateful and appreciate you, the listener and the viewer. If you know someone famous, are you related to someone famous and you want to be a potential guest or a guest, reach out to me at podcastrelativelyfamous@gmail.com. That's podcastrelativelyfamous@gmail.com. Again, appreciate your time. Thanks.
You've been listening to Relatively Famous with Chip White. Please like and subscribe to Relatively Famous with Chip White.